Pleasure to have you on the podcast. How you doing? Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, that's why. Yes, it's great to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, good. Yeah, really well, thank you. And yeah, I'm glad we were able to do it. And I just kind of thought I'd introduce you because you're very much, like into like spirituality. You're psychic, medium. Like, how did you kind of get into this? And kind of bit more, what it's about and how it helps people. Because I think, I think in the past year or so, a lot of people, kind of lean more into, their kind of spiritual side. And I think a lot of people need a lot of clarity sometimes. And I think, the kind of work you do must help people, in their lives quite a lot.
hmm it does. It's helped me tremendously. So I first got into it. Well, I was born with my gifts. I didn't necessarily know that I had them like they did or what they were. I shut them out as I grew up and was like a teen or whatnot. Uh, and then I've always like stayed interested in it. Like I would always go get readings and stuff like that. Just loved it. So as I continued to get older, I then dove into it as I started to see more things. And my father passed, and I remember feeling him. And then really like my gifts began to explode after that, I guess you could say. Then I found a good teacher who helped me dive into it more, and my development went really quick after that. And I knew I was on the right path where I should be. So that's how I kind of got into it. Um, Really, it's when it's supposed to happen or how it's supposed to be. I feel like it just happens and it just naturally flows. And that's how it was for me. As far as why I do it, well, one, I love it. I love helping people. Uh, it helps, actually, it helps soothe my soul. So as I help people, it also helps me because a lot of times I'm the things that I'm telling clients or how spirit comes through me to advise things. It's also for myself and healing for myself, not only for them, but for me too. And a lot of people don't realize that is it's almost like, yo, you got to follow your own advice. You know what I mean? How many times do we or can we tell people so many things or give them advice, but then we don't follow our own, or we can't figure something out ourselves, but yet we already know the answer because we've already given it. I mean, same thing for me, you know? So either way, I enjoy helping people. I enjoy the healing process, um, especially when it comes to mediumship. So hearing from a loved one or um, an animal that might come through from that has passed over to the other side is incredibly healing. Um, it does definitely show the continuity of life, that they're always still there. And then some of the experiences that people have, um, it does solidify that it was real for them. And I think that's incredibly important. One, to trust your intuition, and two, to know that that soul that you miss so desperately, never really left. They're still with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's really, like important, isn't it? To tap into that part of ourselves. And like you said, by, helping other people, it's almost like kind of healing or kind of, and helping like part of you as well. So that kind of like duality, kind of say it, like duality, that kind of synergy between you
Yes.
and the other person.
Uh-huh.
And I think like, like as well, there is that, I mean, I'm very spiritual as well. And I think, like you said, there is that other side. And it's reassuring to know that, you can connect with, either animals or, people who are kind of on that side now.
Yes, absolutely. There is definitely a duality with it, which is pretty cool. And like sometimes when I'm reading for my clients, I'll get like a an influx of clients, and a lot of the same things are happening to them at the same time.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes I have a tendency to think, oh God, like this is coming for me now. like here it comes. And
Yeah.
it's happened a few times, because I can't always read myself. Like I'll get dreams and stuff like that. But for me to, I can't read myself like I read other people. But typically that's what happens for me. Um, yeah, they kind of tell me that way, but that's kind of cool, you know?
Hmm. So like when you say like kind of things come to you, so like messages from like spirit and things like that will come to you, or from on their, either the people you're talking to are the spirits on their side, and things like that.
Yeah, so like you're talking about how like what kind of groups of people might come in or of issues that are
Yeah.
coming in that I know that's going to happen for me. Okay. So if I get, let's say I have a bunch of new clients mixed in with some old ones, um, for maybe a month, and a big theme would be promotion, or
Mm,
it could be a job change. So then I'm going, what's going to happen next? You know, um, be something like that. And then usually something will happen like that for me. It might be a job change, you know? So it does happen like that for me.
yeah, and I think as well, like I've had sometimes messages from psychics on social media, just random psychics sometimes will send me a message and they'll say, "Oh, this is coming up," or "I've got this for you." And I used to be like, "What? Okay, well, what do they mean?" And they're like, "Well, I'm just getting this energy," or they're channeling something, and then and I think it's, to before I kind of got more into it, I was a bit like, what is this all about? But
Mhm.
there is that kind of synchronicity, and there is that, that field of energy which kind of is there, which people don't always see, if that makes sense. There's like a higher level almost which people connect into, and just get, they just can kind of connect and receive information, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just reading energy. I mean, everything is energy, right?
Yeah,
Everything. So it's just reading energy, nothing more than
yeah.
that.
It must be rewarding, helping people, and seeing them shift, and um how powerful that must be, to connect with, you know spirits, or other people that they probably knew, or just connect them with spirit, and providing them with this information.
It is rewarding. It humbles me uh, incredibly. I'm grateful to Spirit that I'm able to do that. I'm grateful
Yeah,
that they chose me to deliver their messages. I'm just a vessel for them to deliver
yeah,
the messages. I'm just their microphone, nothing more than that.
yeah.
It's not me, it's them. They just, I'll say they just use me. I feel so
Mm,
used, right? But
yeah.
um, I'm incredibly grateful and honored by that. It does hit me sometimes when it really, you know,
Yeah,
does help people take them out of a dark place. I mean, I know it has for me when I,
yeah,
when I first lost my dad. That
yeah,
first reading after my father passed was incredibly healing for me.
yeah.
So I do know the impact of it, you know,
Mm, yeah,
and I'm just I can't even describe how grateful I am. Really, it's
yeah.
quite humbling.
Yeah, so, and it's like really grateful, to be able to be in that place, and to be able to, connect, you know, on that level as well. And did it like intimidate you when you first kind of started getting into it, or when you first, like you said, you was like a teenager and things like that? Did it intimidate you? Did you kind of like question what's going on?
Well, I don't know if it intimidated me. Did it scare me a little bit? Yeah, when I was younger, yes. Because I grew up in an old Victorian house, and
Mm,
I would feel things. So, and I would always tell my mom. Um, I mean, the house would scare me when I was there by myself, and I'm a teenager. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm scared. Like, I was scared to go upstairs. So,
yeah,
yeah, there would be. It would bring fear. Um, it definitely would, and I would play with tarot. I would play with the Ouija board. Uh,
oh gosh,
the Ouija board scared me. It still scares me. I don't know why it does, but it does.
Yeah,
Um, and then I play with tarot, like I said. That didn't scare me. I just overused it. But
yeah,
it wasn't really for me. It wasn't for me then. I wasn't using it right. I didn't know. It just wasn't my time.
mm,
So um it did it brought some fear when I was younger.
mm.
Definitely did.
I think like it's something that. So would you say that I could put this into words? Would you say that certain people are kind of more susceptible to tap into the spiritual side? Do you think everyone's kind of able to do it? Because some people, like I've experienced things and I've picked up on things, and I've been like this to people. Have you seen that, or did you pick up on that? And I'm like, no. Do you know there's almost like a filter almost in some people?
Um, do I think so? I think it's just like anything else, how some, like if we talk about athletes, some people are natural athletes, some people have to work at it harder. I think
Mm,
it's the same thing.
yeah,
Um, I think some people are just naturally able to tune into it more, and other people have to work harder at it. I think that everybody has the capability to learn it and try it, but it's just like a muscle that you have to practice
mm,
um, and continually work at. And I do think some just do have those natural gifts as well, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. That's it. And also, like, do you think? I mean, like, since like COVID, have you seen like um more people kind of needing kind of spiritual work, if that makes sense, like mediumship?
I do. I think since I think COVID did a lot to people. Um, it made them sit with themselves. Um, it made them not run from some things that maybe they would have ran from before. So, I mean, as a society, even in different countries, I feel that
Yeah,
people, I mean, we get so busy wanting to do everything. Where how many times do we really just take a moment to sit down and be still and listen to ourselves, to have silence? I mean, silence can be uncomfortable if you're uncomfortable with yourself. Um, Silence also, then you can tap into your higher self. You then might start hearing or seeing some things from the other side. You even, let's take it out of the level of like consciousness here. You have to face yourself more so in stillness and silence, like my life, where am I going, what am I doing, why am I here, why am I not doing this? So we have a tendency to run from that, um, or people. So I think COVID has made people do those exact things that they didn't want to do. Um, so then it comes into so when they start to face themselves, then I think the spirituality aspect comes into this, because then they start to search for why. And then regardless of their beliefs, whether it be in spirituality or a certain religion, then they might start asking the higher power, for then specifically, they might start asking why, and then asking for, can you show me a sign on where I should go, what I should do? Am I on the right path? Do I need to leave this? Do I need to change this? So I think it pushed people into that. Does that make, am I making sense?
yeah, definitely makes sense. Yeah,
So I think it was a big, I think COVID pushed people into that, whether it be religious or spiritual. Um, and I really think it pushed them into looking at themselves on a way deeper level than ever before. It made people be still, which
mm,
is necessary.
yeah, definitely. I agree with you, and I think it's almost like a reset kind of button, isn't it? And I think it's almost with COVID, like everyone's been in different situations in their lives, and I think it's definitely kind of forced people, like when if people are locked down and they can't really go any places, it makes it kind of it's going to force you to look at things if certain things aren't right. And it's yeah, it was a big wake up call, I find, and I think it's almost like everything kind of compiled together, isn't it? And people like you start asking yourself these questions, and when you start asking yourself these questions, it's then kind of chipping away at um, probably people's ego, or like you're tapping more into yourself. I think people have done that more.
Yeah, no, it can tap into the ego by far. It definitely can. Uh, I think it made people look at relationships big time. Um,
Yeah,
what they want, um, what they have before them. Uh, because I think a lot of people have stayed in things longer than they should have, but are able to
yeah,
run away. And COVID made you look at that big time. You
mm,
know, um, I'm definitely not exempt from that either. You know,
yeah,
so a lot of people. You know, so it was definitely a make it or break it time, and I still think that's continuing. Actually, that's not
mm,
done. That is going to
yeah,
continue. For the next year, year and a half. I think from now,
mm, mm,
up to 2 years. Really, it's not
yeah.
done.
It's almost like the change of like approach, isn't it, to different things and like relationships and work, and people have completely changed their lives, and some people haven't. A lot of people have, and I think relationships is a big one. I think a lot of people, if they're with someone who they're not happy with, and they're kind of forced into that place, things are going to rise, aren't they? And I think it was definitely, I definitely made a lot of changes. It made me question a lot of things as well, and I think when you talk about energy and how energy works, like you said before, like, we're all energy. Um, it's something that you can't really oversee.
No, you can't. Not at all.
Yeah. And as well, like, do you read much? Is there any favorite books that you like to read or read?
Well, I do. I do like to read here and there. Uh, Time is not of the essence.
Yeah,
Um, if I'm reading books, it's definitely about spirituality,
yeah,
or it's about like I like remote viewing too, or things with the soul. I like leadership books too. There's this book. It's like the 7 traits, I think it's called, of an amazing leader, something like that.
yeah.
Um, and I know I'm saying the title wrong.
It's all right. I can always add it in.
Okay. Um, yeah, I did something like that. I would say they're my top books. And then there's one by Joe Rogan I like too. So I like
Yeah,
his
Joe
stuff.
Rogan's good.
Yeah. So that's what I would read about. There's the areas I would go towards.
Yeah. No, I think you can really take a lot from books and reading. I think, like, spiritual books, leadership books and business, and kind of there's a whole kind of spectrum of personal development. But I mean, there's definitely a lot to kind of be taken from them. And I think like book sales even kind of increased, I think, during COVID. More people are thinking about, you know, I sat at home, and you feel good about yourself. I think if you do read, or if you manage to read, or if you take a little bit of something away from a book, or
Mhm.
a podcast or whatever.
Absolutely, all the time. Um, yeah, I love all that stuff. I do. And just little pieces just that get stored in your brain.
Yeah,
Like with the Joe Rogan stuff, you know, to help you overcome some like difficult situations, which is we all go through it. So I
yeah,
think it's really good to continue to force you forward.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And like, do you have any like role models or like mentors, like growing up or now?
So
No-
I do. Um, one of my uh, mentors would be my friend Rose. So
Yeah,
she was awesome. Um, she she was a therapist, but she was also intuitive too. So she passed away during, we'll say, yeah, during COVID. Um, but she made one impact on me, like one a huge
mm,
impact on me. Uh, a lot of times I would like question my decisions, where it was going. Um, she helped me on a multitude of levels with that, and I always looked up to her in the way that she was so giving and how giving she was.
mm,
I always wanted to be like that. And like her knowledge was great, especially when it came to psychology, which I also think is very important. Um,
Yeah.
and it definitely got me diving into some psych too, because of her knowledge with that and the explanation of how she would explain people to me and
Yeah.
how they moved. And I always found it fascinating. So I always looked up to her because of
Mm.
all that, you know, by
Yeah.
far, huge, huge impact on my life. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's like one of the biggest ones, I would say,
Yeah.
by far.
I appreciate you
Mhm.
sharing that. I think it's really important, to have role models, and it's quite um impactful, the impact people can have on in your life, isn't it?
Mhm.
Like and sometimes at the time you don't always kind of you're not always aware of it sometimes, and then you kind of start thinking about it or you reflect on it and you're like, oh yeah, well that person's helped me with this and things like that. It's almost like those kind of ripples.
Yeah. Um, I didn't really, I mean, I knew she was an impact in my life, but how much she taught me in many, many aspects, like spirituality wise and you know, real world, like very tangible things was really insurmountable, you know. She really she taught me a lot. I'm incredibly
Yeah.
grateful, incredibly. Like she definitely taught me a lot about mindfulness, and
Yeah.
now I'm able to teach it. Like I can teach that easily. So
Yeah.
very, very powerful lessons from her.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. And like I think like it's so important, isn't it? Like people to have people like that, around, and to have people be like that, to tap into, psychology, and to want to, provide value. It's quite inspirational when, you have people who are doing those things.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Okay.
And I was going to say, like, did you always kind of think you would kind of get into this? Like, when you was like a teenager, did you think you would kind of tap into this? Is it something that crossed your mind?
It did. Because like I said, I play with the tarot and
Yeah.
I would like try to read myself or other people. And you know, so like I said, I always had an interest. Um, there were times like my adult life, I'm like, man, I would love to like be a reader. But then when it actually happened, I have to say it was kind of surreal. So
Yeah.
it was, but I'm grateful, man. I love it. I do.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think like it's that kind of probably first step, isn't it? It's intimidating, I think, trying new things out and then kind of launching yourself into it. I think that's where kind of most people struggle, and then probably doubt, and not doubt. I mean, I like question themselves, or worry about what people are going to think.
Oh yeah. Like you definitely have to be vulnerable and you have to be definitely strong and confident in yourself. I mean, I'm coming up with some, you know, I shouldn't say I'm coming up with some. Spirit is telling me some stuff that sometimes can be like totally off the wall.
Mm,
And who am I to judge it or who am I to say what's right or wrong? I
yeah,
mean, I don't judge, but I'm kind of like, really? You want me to say that? Like, that sounds
yeah,
like I'm gonna look
yeah,
crazy. I, I gotta trust them and trust what they're saying and
yeah,
vulnerable to get totally bashed.
mm,
And I have, you know, and no, usually the crazier it is, the more spot on it is, to be honest with
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Um, it's about trusting them, trusting yourself, having confidence in your abilities and what they're telling you. Taking your ego out of it is huge. You got to take your ego out of it by far. Put your ego
mm,
into it, it ain't gonna do nothing. Your ego has to depart when you're reading. Um, but yeah, you definitely got to be vulnerable for all this and get ready for the backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like with like, being vulnerable, there's a lot of kind of strength to kind of be drawn from that place, if that makes sense. Excuse me. And like, being in that vulnerable place, like to be vulnerable is quite a big thing. It's like, doing, for some people a podcast on video or whatever, or doing a podcast in audio, or doing a live, or kind of venturing out into the unknown. Like, yeah, I kind of go to that vulnerable place, but there's kind of a lot of growth that can be taken from that, if that makes sense. If you can be vulnerable.
Yes. So I feel like it's necessary once, if you're vulnerable, I feel like that's when you're truly being honest with yourself and other people. And that's not always easy because when we are vulnerable, we're opening ourselves up to be attacked, if you will. People are learning the more, I'm going to say, the intricacies of you. So you're giving them things to make fun of, poke fun, try to lower your self-esteem, stuff like that. And really, who wants to give anybody any of those things to try to attack them if they get mad at them or maybe if they're jealous? And that's where I think the real growth comes from, because it's like, okay, say what you got to say, do what you got to do. It doesn't matter. I'm still me, being confident in yourself. And hey, that's fine if you think this or do that. I mean, it's a hard place to be, but yes, that's where growth comes from, is when you're able to be vulnerable and try new things, engage in change. You have to be vulnerable to engage in change too. Have to, because you're definitely going to be feeling those feelings, and sometimes those feelings of, like, if we'll say, like, going on a podcast for a first time and possibility of being made fun of or whatever, um, that changes where we grow. So it's definitely
Mm.
a hard spot. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I agree with you, and I think like it's that mirror, isn't it? I think people kind of mirror kind of what they're thinking or feeling themselves, and they sometimes project that onto people. Because they'll say, "Oh, well, it's that person," but no, it's actually them. Um,
Okay.
and like when you have like clients, come to you, they have to be vulnerable as well, don't they? I suppose they have to, open up and then go to that place as well. But then you're probably
Um,
being would you say that you're being vulnerable as well? I suppose it probably is kind of like kind of duality with that.
well, for me, when I'm reading people, I step aside.
Yeah,
So, and it's spirit speaking.
yeah,
Um, but I have to open myself up so that like, I feel certain emotions and stuff like that as it comes
yeah,
through, um, with the empath part. But
mm,
for the client, yeah, it's important for them to be vulnerable. Now, that doesn't mean that I need them to tell me things, because I don't read like that.
no,
I do a cold reading. Excuse me.
yeah,
Um, but they have to be able to be open to feel the feelings that comes with a reading.
yeah,
So
yeah,
sometimes, because people can block energy,
yeah,
um, so a lot of times, like for myself, I like phone readings or email readings the best, where that's my preference, because I feel like as though it allows the client to be more vulnerable. They don't have to worry about me seeing them cry. They don't have to worry
mm,
about hiding anything, like if they're wearing rings or a necklace, or they're holding
yeah,
something, or what they look like, or if they're sitting next to somebody. I don't need to see any
yeah,
of that. So I like phone and email, because I feel as though it's able for them to be more natural, more vulnerable,
mm,
and not worried about me reading physical, tangible
yeah,
items and taking up clues. I don't need that,
yeah,
you know. Um, but if some people will be, because there are some frauds
yeah,
out there and there are people that are fakes. So I understand that. So they won't be so focused on holding this or covering this, or and being like, uh-huh, uh-huh,
mm,
instead they're
yeah,
in a natural state, and I feel like it flows better.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. definitely. And I think like it's it's definitely that, kind of vulnerable place people kind of have to go to. And like you said, like blocking energy, people kind of have to be open to kind of doing the work, if that makes sense. And I think, with the energy, if you're blocking energy, then things aren't going to, kind of come through, probably as easy.
Right.
Um, but I find it really interesting, and I really believe, you know, in spirituality, and that, there is a higher realm, if that's the right word, um, that we kind of can't really see, but it's there, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think you have to experience things for yourself or go through something sometimes, um, to see that, or to have, to like have a reading, and then something kind of comes through, which then makes someone kind of realize. Uh, but there's a lot of power there, and I think more people kind of opening up more to it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I've definitely seen more people open up to it by far. And I think that's going to continue. I just think that people are searching for some answers, validation from the other side. I think that it's becoming more mainstream and not so much taboo anymore. I
Mm,
feel that as well. And I also feel it with people who are very religious. I feel like they're also
mm.
starting to dabble into it as well. Not
Yeah,
all, some.
yeah, definitely. And would you say like you mentioned mindfulness earlier, like more kind of corporate businesses, I think, are kind of opening up more to it, aren't they? I think a lot of places, for their employees are looking. Sorry about this glare, the sun. Um,
Oh, no,
but
good.
the opening up more to mindfulness and to well-being, and to probably spirituality, I think.
I don't know if they'll cross over to lines of spirituality, but
Yeah,
I do feel that mindfulness is definitely becoming more mainstream too, especially in the business world. Uh, and I would definitely say that would go along the lines of mental health,
yeah,
because so much pressure that gets put on people in every aspect of life. So I think that businesses are definitely focusing more on that and how important it is of the mental health of their employees. So taking time to teach that, even more so now, and
mm,
definitely becoming more prevalent. I do see
yeah,
that.
definitely. And it's all connected, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, like spirituality, energy, our bodies, people's health. It's all kind of connected into one, and it all kind of goes back to like, that spiritual side of it as well, which is like the kind of,
Well, yeah, I feel like everything's connected. You know,
yeah,
different, different parts of your body are connected to different emotions, which then goes to, well, your mental. So
mm,
yeah, I feel like it's all connected.
yeah, definitely. So let me just my phone's me just my phone's about to fall off. Yeah, that's it. Definitely, I think it's all. Sorry, it's my phone. Right, it's still now. There we go. But yeah, it's all connected, isn't it? And yeah, no, I just want to like say like it's been a pleasure talking to you, and having you on the podcast, and for you to share about what you do, and a bit about yourself. And I just think it's really like really awesome what you do, and that it helps, or you're helping other people, and you're doing something that you love and enjoy, and it's what it's all about, isn't it? You're providing that value, making a difference,
Mhm,
following your your heart and intuition, and what you kind of want to do.
mhm. Thank you so much. It was awesome being on here. You rock. You're awesome. So very easy
No,
to talk to.
yeah, no, thank you. Really, really means a lot. Really means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. And same to you. It's great talking to you. I'm glad we was able to do it. And I was just thinking, like, where can people find you on like social media, like your website, that kind of thing?
So my website is www.astralwhispers.com. You can book your appointments there. You can also find me on Instagram, psychic_medium_Deena_Janel. You can find me on there too, where you can also send me a DM, so that you can book an appointment that way too, if you need to. Also, I'm on Facebook at Astral Whispers. So you can
Yeah.
find me multitude of ways.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, I wish you all the best in everything that you do, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. I'll
You're
talk to you
welcome.
later.
Yeah. Talk soon.